Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? My name is Verdict and thank you so much for stopping by. Now, ladies and gents, I need to be honest with you, I am happy. I'm pleased with the story which we've been brought forth by Pearl Abyss about the future of Black Desert Online. And many people are asking, why are we going 1,000 years back into BDO? Like, what's the deal? Why would we even do this? Don't we have a world? Can they figure out new enemies? And today I'm going to go and really try to kind of unpack the lore of Black Desert, because for the first time ever, you have to know it in order for you to understand why the future is so grim in Black Desert and why in the past it was even worse. Now, ladies and gents, before this, my name is Verdict and I'm the Mystic Guy, loving the class, been teaching that class, but also I love Black Desert lore, and this is a great opportunity to be able to tell you what is happening right now in Black Desert, what will happen probably in the future, speculatively of course, and then why would we even go back 1,000 years? What's the deal about this time travel thing? So let's get into it. Now, you need to understand one or two things about BDO, and that is that the current state, in the current timeline, we have a big baddie who is called Hadum. He is pretty much the most evil entity. Because of him, the calamities which we have been bestowed with, well, pretty much he is the reasoning behind all of them. Hadum is the current occupator of the Elvia realm, where the elves are from, where Sylvia was from, the person who essentially collapsed from quote-unquote the heavens, which is the realm of Elvia, and reincarnated as the Camasylvian tree. Because of Sylvia, the Thornwood goddess is somewhat tied around this. Because of the Thornwood goddess, the Orzekans were worshipping the Thornwood goddess, and of course, because of that, pretty much the birth of Xarka, who is known to be our only protector, at least at the time he was. Then, long story short, a little bit of issues came through. He did nothing wrong. We were manipulated into betraying Xarka, and he rampaged, destroying half the world. That's a little bit of a topic for another day. But, ladies and gents, we have to talk about the current timeline without digressing way too much. So, the current timeline, as I said, what we're doing right now in Black Desert is we are fighting against Hadum's influence over the Elvia realm, pretty much collapsing onto ours. This is what is happening. Elezra, one way or another, is trying to treasure hoard our strongest bits of power that we could possibly have to combat Hadum from doing this. We're having so many things to talk about. Now, what will happen probably into the future? Well, with the Orzikia Ataraxian dungeon, we will probably be confronting, as confirmed by Pearl Abyss, we will be confronting Elezra, and probably she will be revealing a lot to us. Whether or not she will die, which I think that she will, we will probably be interfering once more per manipulation of side forces into us killing or us defeating the only being, the only person that is capable of saving us through her deeds. And I really do believe that this is Elezra. Elezra's motives are pretty much, I will put the tyranny onto my world instead of somebody else, because tyranny, unfortunately, is inevitable. This is a little bit of a reoccurring theme into Black Desert's lore. So, in my opinion, when we go into Ataraxian, we will be probably confronting Elezra. We will ruin her plan of her being capable of kind of taking the world within her own grasp instead of making Hadum, or rather instead of losing to Hadum, so he comes and does it instead. What this means is that unfortunately Xarka's soul, something will happen to it. If you guys remember, during the main quest chain, Elezra kind of partially summoned Xarka with the help of the Calphionian King and her Hex, and she was capable of stealing that little fragment of Xarka's soul, which is incredibly potent. Now, into the future, well, let's talk a little bit about Land of the Morning Light 2. And to be fair with you, there is nothing to talk about in terms of Land of the Morning Light Part 2. As Pearl Abyss said, it is a spin-off that pretty much holds barely no weight of lore or anything that has to do with Black Desert. It's pretty much an irrelevant piece of content, at least in the lore terms. But, of course, probably they'll find a way to connect it, and in my opinion they should, because otherwise it feels very counterintuitive. But let's talk a little bit about Mountain of Eternal Winter Part 2. Mountain of Eternal Winter Part 2 is absolutely insane. Mountain of Eternal Winter Part 2 will be a place, as confirmed by Pearl Abyss, we will be actually trying to find the remnants of Caphras, whom I have absolutely no idea how he is in Mountain of Eternal Winter Part 2, when the last we know he was pretty much lost within the Altar of Blood into the realm in between where Zarka was banished. Every time we summon Zarka, we essentially take a little bit of a fragment of him into that abomination of a summoning which we see, and then we banish that little piece of him back. Or in other words, we have never gotten to see Zarka fully summoned and fully powered. That is a very important bit that you guys have to understand. So in Land of the Morning Light 2, in my opinion, what we will be looking is we will be finding a way to enter that realm, and I'm not sure if we will be looking forward to rescue Caphras or whatever's happening, but long story short, Caphras is cursed with immortality. He tried to summon, or rather resummon Zarka, but instead, one way or another, through his own methods, he ended up trapping himself within the same confinements of where Zarka is imprisoned. Or in other words, Caphras is perpetually immortal within a world where the person that is inside has lost their mind and they're endlessly killing them. Or in other words, Caphras is right now in living freaking hell. Yes, you heard me correct. He is immortal, and he's probably getting shredded every single second throughout millennia. Now, this is something very, very grim, but what I believe in Land of the Morning Light 2 is, well, Jordine Dukas, who was infused with the quote-unquote fragment of the Phoenix Flame, which turns out, confirmed by Alezra, to be a fragment of Hadoom's soul, he will be using, in my opinion, that portal through there to be able to glance, or rather to gaze within that very same realm for us to be able to potentially get inside, fetch Caphras, and whatever happens with Zarka afterwards. Now, this leads me into a second little bit of a little bit of an unhinged theory, but then let's say that this is the finale of Land of the Morning Light. Then why would we go to the Demon Lands? Well, I have absolutely no clue. The Demon Lands are very vague, unexplored. There is very little that we know about the Demon Lands. Very few demons, to be honest, in this world to begin with. And more or less, it's going to be a little bit of a, let's explore this. It's probably going to be something similar to Land of the Morning Light, where it's going to be more experimental in a sense. But then I do believe ultimately that we will be losing the war against Hadoom, because otherwise, why would we go back to fight something that essentially, whenever we arrive with our current gear from this timeline into the past, we will pretty much, man, we gotta cut grass to find enemies out there. Like, seriously, it makes absolutely no sense. Well, in my opinion, what's gonna happen is, into the current timeline, we will lose, similar to the Avengers with that Thanos snap, and we have to go back. We have to go all the way back. We're talking probably all the way back when Orzeka was only now becoming a kingdom. We're talking about old times. If you guys saw this map, which they showed 1,000 years ago, this is where the lore exists. All the lore, pretty much the entirety of it that we know of right now, is from 1,000 years ago. We barely have any new lore because we're living over this kind of glooming shadow of the past of what happened in Black Desert Online with Zarka, with Libresca, with Banha, Markthanan, all of the summonings of Zarka, all of the absolutely hideous things that happened with Ibador, and most importantly, of course, a little bit too late into the video, but Idana, Sage, or in other words, Rux Dekia, the creator of the Dekia's Lantern. Oh my god, you have no idea what we're getting into. 1,000 years ago, Rux Dekia, who is considered to be essentially perpetual, his Kive types of thing, which is right over here about on his chest, it is essentially a phylactery. His soul is inside, but unfortunately, he has lost his memories. I have a little bit of a theory on this, but that is for another time. Now, Idana is the very first individual, the very first human being, whether human or not, doesn't really matter, but the very first being within our world who was capable, through Rux Magia, or in other words, Sage, to conquer the Black Spirit. We get to learn about this within the Valencia quest chain. If you guys haven't, of course, are spammed through it, but you probably saw the big Black Spirit with the tentacles at the end. This is Idana's Black Spirit, who is still within our world, and he is exceptionally powerful. He is super, super strong. Now, going back into the world 1,000 years ago, as Pearl Abyss said, is we will figure out one very important thing. How did the Black Spirit came through within this world? Why did it came through? And also we will probably observe the most important bits of Black Desert history, such as the building of Ataraxian, Ruxmagia Sage, essentially, how he helped Idana conquer the Black Spirit. Most importantly, the overseeing and construction of Orzeka. We will probably see the fall of the elves, because we're probably going there to help the elves as early as possible, while Hadum has not amassed such immediate and incredible strength. Now, in order for you guys to understand how strong Hadum is, well, there is a little bit of a story in Black Desert which you've probably missed. It's called the explosion of the Kron Castle. Within that explosion, Khafrez, who is the immortal alchemist, the same guy who created the Khafre Stone, the same guy that's responsible for us having Black Distortion earrings, Fallen God armors, weapons, all of it is pretty much Khafre's entire fault. He's kind of cool if you think about it from that moment, but he is not a cool individual. He's done insane things. Now, Khafrez, essentially, he tried to summon Hadum within Kron Castle, and unfortunately for the people of Balanos, forgive me, well, one simple gaze over the portal which Hadum was being summoned through, he simply peered through it. One simple gaze drove half the kingdom insane. This is painting a little bit of a picture of why you can't fuck with Hadum. He is insanely strong, insanely powerful. And in my opinion, what we'll be doing 1,000 years back into the past from our future is to do a fight with the ultimate evil. And ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, I've just pretty much unraveled what will happen within the future of Black Desert Online, and I do hope that you enjoyed. It's something that you have to know, otherwise you wouldn't understand why is the world so different, why are we all the way back, why is this, why is that, and I hope I wasn't too all over the place with this. Black Desert lore is a lot. In order for you to understand it, you need to read a lot, walk around the world a lot, do the quests a lot, all of these things. And with that being said, ladies and gents, I love you to death, and I will see you soon. Man, it's exciting, exciting future for Black Desert's lore, story, expansions, all of it. We will see what the hell is up. See you soon. Bye-bye.